All right, what is going? What's happening? How's everybody doing today? My name is Chuck, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're going to be jumping into my top 5 most overpowered classes for you guys to use here in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I really haven't made one of these videos for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War in quite a long time, so I figured I'd give you guys my updated classes that I think are the ultimate ones to use here in Cold War. Because the game's been out for a while, we've been able to figure out basically all the, the really good guns. I've had a chance to level up a large majority of them. So that being said, if you guys think you enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys give it a like, subscribe if you are brand new with those notifications turned on. With that being said, let's actually jump into this. Okay, so off rip here, let's actually jump into one of my favorite guns to use in the entire game right now, which is the AK-47. And as you guys can see, I do happen to have it gold. It's actually my first gun I ever got gold. So let's actually jump into my attachments I'm using on this gun. Before we do that, actually, I should mention that I'm going to be running the Gunfighter wildcard, which does give me the option to run up to 8 different attachments, which I do believe is the correct way to run this gun. And also for basically all my classes, if I'm running 8 attachments, I run Flak Jacket, Scavenger, and Ghost. And then, of course, I run the Stim Shot, the C4, and then the Field Mic Field Upgrade, along with then the Dual Wield Diamatis with the Tiny Comrade variant, the anime variant, as my backup. Okay, so jumping in here, obviously, in the optic section, I don't have an optic check. So I'm basically using 7 out of 8 attachments here. And the reason is, I just don't really find that having an optic on the AK-47 is super beneficial. I just don't really like it all that much. And so I just basically opt to go with the iron sights because I feel like for multiplayer, the iron sights are absolutely fantastic. So let's actually jump right down here to the suppressor. So we're actually going to be rocking the GRU suppressor, the last one you happen to get. And I should say that basically, if you want to rock the regular suppressor because you don't happen to have the GRU suppressor unlocked, that's completely fine. It will actually do you just good. Just because like my weapon level's maxed out and you do happen to get, the GRU and some of these other attachments at a very late level unlock, you can still have a very good class setup without actually having the maximum attachments on absolutely everything. So I should say that you'll be fine rocking the regular suppressor, but when you do get the GRU suppressor for that 100% muzzle flash concealment and of course that 7% vertical recoil control, you'll be actually a lot better off than running the regular suppressor. So it's just one of those things that you'll get a better attachment as you level up a little bit more, but this is a fantastic attachment to use on the AK-47. So let's actually move down in here to my next thing, which is my barrel, and I'm actually going to be running the 18.2 VDV reinforced. And some of you guys out there are probably going to be looking at me like, yo Chuck, like why are you not rocking the 20 inch 20 Spetsnaz RPK barrel for that plus 8% damage, that 50% effective damage range, and plus 50% bullet velocity? And here's the reason why. So you guys can see all the cons down there. For whatever reason, it actually negatively affects your maximum starting ammo, which I don't really understand at all. I don't really get why that's even a thing. It also gives you negative 20% on your vertical recoil control and negative 15% in your horizontal recoil control, which is kind of ridiculous. Like this thing kicks up a lot in multiplayer, and it's even worse in Warzone. So you basically should never use the RPK barrel in Warzone ever. If you ever feel like using it, just basically do yourself a favor and don't ever try it. But for me, I just felt like that the Spetsnaz RPK barrel, when they kind of did a little bit of a nerf to it, it was still pretty good, but it basically just wasn't nearly as good as it used to be when I was originally unlocking everything on the AK. So that's basically why I go with the VDV reinforced, because this really doesn't give me any maximum ammo starting penalties or recoil control penalties. This basically only helps my gun more or less. Some of these other things we can definitely combat down there, but it's basically almost negligible at that point when we start adding on other attachments. So this is by far the best barrel in my opinion to run on your AK-47. Just go ahead and try this one out, and basically it's a pretty early to mid-level unlock, so you guys should be pretty good off. For the body, I'm actually running the Tiger Team Spotlight for that plus 40% reveal distance. This is actually a really overpowered attachment in my opinion. The Tiger Team Spotlight, for whatever reason, it's so good, but I think the reason it is as good as it actually is because in Black Ops Cold War, it's very hard to see your enemies sometimes. For whatever reason, they made this game incredibly difficult to be able to see people maybe like behind trees or bushes or on a head glitch of some sort. They made it really difficult to be able to see people. So when they added in attachments like this, like the Tiger Team Spotlight, this actually does make sense why it's actually in the game. I thought it was kind of gimmicky at first, but it's actually genuinely really good. So if I was you guys, I would 100% throw this on there. You're going to start seeing people like through those bushes on Cartel, on head glitches a lot easier, and sometimes you may not even see somebody and the little red dot pops up above them. You're like, oh crap, that's an enemy. So I think this is hugely beneficial to run on your gun. So if I was you guys, do this. Of course, it does negatively affect your sprint to fire time, but that's completely okay because we'll fix that here in just a little bit. Next up, we're going to the underbarrel, and I'm going to be running the Spetsnaz grip for that plus 6% vertical recoil control and that plus 20% horizontal recoil control. When we combine this with the VDV reinforced barrel that we actually have on, we're basically getting so much effective damage range and muzzle velocity and all that stuff, and we're also basically negating any sort of recoil effect. So this thing's going to be an absolute laser beam, whereas if we were to have the Spetsnaz barrel on this gun, it would just be an absolute mess, and we'd still be having a decent bit of recoil for basically not nearly as much benefit. So just go ahead and run the Spetsnaz here. Obviously, I would say that you guys should probably skip over using like the Bruiser, the Patrol, and the Infiltrator. Basically, all you want to do is use the regular foregrip up until you get the option to run the Spetsnaz or the Spetsnaz speed grip. Basically, whatever you really want. I mean, I just tend to like the Spetsnaz grip, the regular one, a little bit more than the Spetsnaz speed grip, just because the attributes it gives me. So I think this is a fantastic attachment to use on the AK-47. For my magazine, I basically just went straight down to the very bottom and ran the VDV 50 round fast mag. I just really like having 50 rounds in my magazine, like the largest magazine I can possibly have, usually on a gun, like whether it be in Modern Warfare, like a 50-60 round magazine. If I ever have an option for a 60, I'll throw on the 60. So for this game, of course, I'm going to be running the 50 round fast mag on my AK-47. Usually speaking, though, when I didn't have this unlocked, I was basically rocking the 40 round speed mag, as that's kind of like, you know, the next version, you know, below it. So if I was you guys, just basically run the 40 round speed mag all the way up until you get the 50 round, and then when you get the 50 round, you'll be absolutely fine. Of course, this does have a negative ADS you know, penalty there, but I mean, I really don't notice it all that much. I think this AK is fantastic, and of course, we still have a few more attachments to go over, so let's actually jump into those. So next up here, we actually have my handle, which is my GRU elastic wrap, which is that plus 30% aim down sight time, plus 90% flinch resistance, and allows me to aim while going prone. This is by far the best wrap or a handle and, you know, this sort of category here. I mean, obviously there's other good ones that you can use, like the Spetsnaz field grip, until you like level up, but nothing will give you all three of these minus, you know, this is basically it. Like, this is the GRU elastic wrap. This is the best one you can possibly have here on your gun. So if I was you guys, rock the GRU elastic wrap. This is an incredible handle. I really like it. So now let's actually move on to the last attachment for my AK-47, which is actually going to be the very last stock you happen to get, which is the KGB skeletal stock for that plus 30% sprint to fire time and plus 40% aim walking movement speed. So essentially, because we have now then buffed our mobility up with those last two attachments, any sort of negative penalties we've gotten so far has more or less been canceled out, and we just have all this benefit without basically really much of a con. Of course, this does negatively impact your hipfire accuracy, which is completely okay, because, you know, AK-47 is not exactly a close range weapon. That's where you have your dual wield Diamatis, your Gallo 12, I mean, something like that. Like, you have your close range guns, so we're not really trying to worry about too much on your hipfire accuracy with your AK-47. So that is gonna be my AK-47 class setup. You guys definitely need to give it a shot. This is an absolutely incredible gun. I really like this. Unfortunately, it doesn't really show you the camo when you go to inspect, which is actually kind of bogus, but it is what it is. Now let's actually move on to the next gun. So now this is my second gold gun that I actually happened to get, and this is the M16. The M16, and even though it did technically get a nerf of some sort, it really didn't get like a nerf. I mean, this thing is still absolutely incredible. So let's actually go through and show you guys my attachments on this, because this is definitely one of my favorite guns to use in all of Cold War. And frequently, if I'm playing against some super sweaty tryhards, I will frequently pull this out and actually use this, because it definitely is really competitive. So let's actually jump into it. So the first thing is first, I do have an optic on this, and I'm actually rocking the mill stop reflex. I just happen to really like the mill stop on this thing. I just like the way it looks. It feels really good. Some people really like the Cobra. I personally think that 1.7 times magnification is a little bit too much of a zoom in for me. I just really like that mill stop reflex. And of course, some people like the quick dot LED, but for me, the mill stop just happens to work incredibly well. This is a personal preference thing, but as long as you happen to have a red dot on your gun, on your M16, you're just going to be set. Doesn't matter what it is, just whatever you happen to really like, throw a red dot on your M16 and you'll be good to go. For the muzzle, we're actually rocking the agency silencer for that plus 100% muzzle flash concealment and plus 15% vertical recoil control. This is actually really good. Of course, like I said, with my AK-47, you can rock the regular silencer. There's basically no sort of like real downside to it. I mean, because your barrel is going to counteract any sort of bullet velocity type negative effects you happen to get. But for me, the regular silencer worked fine up until I got the agency silencer. And sometimes I didn't even rock a silencer at all, and I actually was rocking the SOCOM Eliminator, and that actually was working very well for me at a certain point until I actually happened to get the agency silencer. So sometimes I move back and forth between the SOCOM Eliminator and the agency silencer. You know, I just like both of these, but I would recommend the agency silencer if I was you guys. Next up here in the barrel section is actually going to be the 20.5 Task Force barrel. This is my go-to barrel of choice on this gun for that plus 14% damage, plus 50% effective damage range, and plus 50% bullet velocity. This is a really good barrel. You guys can definitely swap this out out for something else if you really want to, but I actually like that plus 14% damage the most out of this thing. I think this is an incredible barrel. This has really been deleting people for me. I've been finding myself getting like an incredible amount of one bursts on people. I mean, so it's actually pretty disgusting in my opinion. So if I was you guys, I would go ahead and rock this for sure. This is just an overall great attachment, though it is a very, very late level unlock because my weapon is maxed out. So I do happen to have all the attachments, though not all my guns are going to be maxed out because, you know, it takes a long time to be able to max out all your stuff. Let's move down here to the body. Of course, like I was talking about the AK-47, I'm rocking the Tiger Team Spotlight. I really don't feel like a need to rock the steady aim laser or something like that, so that plus 40% reveal distance on a tactical rifle is going to be incredible because you are going to be picking people off from that medium range. So being able to have that option to be able to, you know, see more people at that range and be able to hit those shots and be able to effectively see where they are is going to be very beneficial to you. So I would go ahead and rock the Tiger Team Spotlight for this. This is overall amazing. Next up, actually down here in the underbarrel section, we are going to be rocking the Field Agent foregrip because it gives me that plus 10% vertical recoil control and that plus 40% horizontal recoil control. So this is overall really, really awesome in my opinion. I like this a lot. Like I was saying with some of these other grips, I basically disregard all these other grips. I just rock the regular foregrip up until I get, like, you know, the Spetsnaz or the Field Agent, basically one of the two. These last two ones down here are going to be the ones you're going to really want to mess with when you get up to that level unlock. But until then, basically only just use the regular, you know, foregrip. I mean, there's no benefit to using the Infiltrator, the Patrol, the Bruiser, unless you, for whatever reason, feel like the gun has absolutely no recoil and there's no reason, you know, and you feel like there's, you know, not a reason to not use one of these things. But in my opinion, there's not really a gun out there that I found so far that is beneficial to use these grips on. Basically, the Field Agent is going to be the best one. For the magazine, I basically just rock a 45 round speed mag. I could definitely go down here and rock the Salvo 54 round fast mag, but to be honest with you, I found that, like, you know, the 45 round, you know, fast mag is just been absolutely like wonderful for me. I really haven't found that I needed any more magazine or any more like ammo in my magazine because it is indeed a 3-round burst gun. It's not like it's a fully automatic gun. If it's a fully automatic gun, of course, I'm rocking, you know, the highest magazine possible. But because this is burst, I'm able to basically take people out in like 1 to 2 bursts maximum. So having a, like, that's a lot of bursts at my disposal right there. So I don't really feel like I need to be able to have, you know, the 54 round fast mag, but I could definitely go ahead and try it out. It just does give me an extra 5% penalty on my ADS time. So if I was you guys, rock the 45 round. There's no real benefit to rocking the Salvo 54. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. I wouldn't rock it. I've always liked this, so I've kind of stuck with it. Now let's move on down here to the handle. I'm going to be rocking the Airborne Elastic Wrap for that plus 30% ADS time, 90% flinch resistance, and of course the ability to aim while going prone. If I ever want to drop shot somebody, I can definitely do it with this wrap. This, like I said, is by far the best wrap to be able to run on your gun. So if I was you guys, go ahead and run this. I'm not really going to spend too much time in here because, I mean, like I said, all these other ones are basically just build-ups to the Airborne Elastic Wrap. Like, they're basically just, you know, lower level unlocks and different variations of having, you know, different pros. But essentially the last one in the category is more or less going to be the best one for you. So I mean, I just don't know why they happen to do that. It seems like some of the other attachments in Modern Warfare, like, you could get a very early level attachment that actually be very good, but it seems like in Cold War, all the real best stuff is very much so tied into, like, getting the weapon all the way super leveled up to the max, which is a little bit ridiculous considering how long it takes to level up stuff in this game. But I'm not going to go on a rant about that. Let's actually move on down here to the last thing I actually am using, which is going to be the Raider Pad, which is essentially the KGB skeletal stock, but for this gun. So this gives me that plus 30% sprint to fire time and that plus 40% aim walking movement speed. This allows me to be a little bit more mobile when I'm actually using this gun, and I found this to be a fantastic attachment. Of course, it does give me that hipfire accuracy penalty, but I mean, like, once again, this is a 3-round burst gun. This is not an up-close gun, so you're going to be ADSing, or you're just going to be, you know, just whipping out your secondaries, whether it be the dual-wield Diamatis or the, you know, the Gallo SA-12 or something like that. You know, you're just going to be whipping out something else, and you're not going to be using this in very, very close quarters combat. So this is an amazing setup. I personally really like this, and once again, it takes away my gold camo when I want to inspect it, but it is what it is. Hopefully, guys enjoyed this one. This is a fantastic gun to use, and definitely maybe a little bit broken. Okay, so now let's move into an SMG, and that is going to be the MP5. So I'm actually, of course, running the gunfighter attachments here on again. Then that means I'm going to have the most amount of attachments possible on my gun. I basically run 7 out of 8 attachments. I do not happen to run an optic. I don't really find running an optic is beneficial on the MP5. I've always liked the MP5 iron sights, so let's actually jump into the muzzle here. So the muzzle, I'm actually running the agency suppressor for that plus 100% muzzle flash concealment, and of course that plus 7% vertical recoil control. This is absolutely phenomenal in my opinion, and I really like actually running this. This is a fantastic suppressor, and sometimes I'll swap out the suppressor for the SOCOM eliminator, and if I really want to just kind of, you know, check it out and be able to do something a little bit different. But honestly, I basically only go back and forth between these two, and I never really go back and forth and check out any of these other ones. I mean, basically once you have the SOCOM eliminator and the agency suppressor, you're set and you don't need to check out any other stuff in the muzzle category. Okay, so now for the barrel, I'm actually going to be rocking the very last barrel you happen to get, which is the 9.5 Task Force, and this gives me that plus 6% damage, plus 50% effective damage range, and plus 75% bullet velocity. This is an incredible barrel. This is definitely, of course, the last one you happen to unlock, so it is going to be a rather late level unlock, probably level 47 plus to like 53, somewhere in there. So it's going to take you a little bit of a time to be able to get up here, but honestly, if you really don't happen to have this barrel, rock the reinforced heavy barrel, and this is going to be equally as good. I mean, it's not going to have, you know, the exact same stats obviously, but I mean, it's still a really good option to use up until you get the Task Force barrel. So if I was you guys, you know, go ahead and rock the Task Force. This is really good. Next up, of course, we're going to be rocking the Tiger Team Spotlight. I just kind of found this attachment to be kind of a little bit indispensable, no matter if I'm rocking an AR or an SMG. This does basically only negatively affect my sprint to fire time, which is not that big of a deal on a lot of the ARs. It negatively affects your hip fire accuracy. It has negatively affected my hip fire accuracy a lot on, like, you know, maybe an SMG. I probably wouldn't run it, but because it doesn't, I'm actually able to kind of get away with running it here, and this allows me to see a lot of people while they're head glitching something, especially on Nuketown. They could be up in the window and I may not see them, but when I actually happen to get that little bit of a heads up on there, it is absolutely amazing. It does help me, you know, pick my routes a little bit better because, you know, the MP5 is an SMG, it's not an AR, I don't have as much range, so I have to be a little bit more cautious with my gunfights. So let's actually move on down here to the under barrel. Of course, like I said, I'm going to be rocking the Field Agent grip, much like I did on the M16. I'm of course rocking in here 6% vertical, 20% horizontal, basically going to be the best foregrip out there. I don't really want to spend too much time on this because it's basically the same thing for the M16, like with this gun here. And now let's go down to the magazine. Let's actually jump in here. This is the Salvo 40 round fast mag. Unfortunately, we don't have a 50 round magazine in Warzone that allows you to have a 50 round magazine, but in multiplayer they don't allow you to have a 50 round magazine, so that kind of really is what it is. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that, but to be honest with you guys, so I mean, it kind of really is what it is that we don't happen to have a 50 rounds. So I just say you run the Salvo 40 round fast mag, basically call it a day. You don't have to think too much about it. This is an incredible attachment to use. And let's move on down here. So now we have the airborne elastic wrap. This is that 30% ADS, 90% flinch resistance, and then aim while going prone, so I can drop shot people, which is especially beneficial while running an SMG. Seriously, super beneficial. You guys should definitely run this as soon as you happen to get it unlocked. It will definitely be the best handle / wrap for you to be able to use. And the last attachment I do happen to use is the Raider stock here, which is that 30% sprint to fire time and that 10% aim walking movement speed. This does give me a bit of a hip fire accuracy penalty, which isn't necessarily the best, so I may swap this out at some point, but I've actually found this to be an incredible attachment, and I really do actually happen to like that sprint to fire time on this thing. So this is overall a really good MP5 class setup. You guys definitely need to go ahead and try. I'm a really big fan of the MP5, definitely a top tier SMG in Black Ops Cold War. And with that being said, let's actually move on to our next gun. Okay, so next up in here, we're actually going to be looking at the Krig 6 assault rifle. This is definitely one of my favorite, if not my favorite assault rifles to use besides the AK-47. So let's actually jump into this. Now, of course, I'm rocking the gunfighter, so we have 8 attachments on this thing. Actually, 8 attachments because I do think the iron sights here are rather bad, and so my attachment of choice here for my optic is going to be the Microflex LED. I tend to really like actually using the Microflex. It's actually a really good attachment in my opinion. I just like that 1.25 times magnification on this thing. It's basically like the most clear red dot you can possibly have, and whenever I do have the option to run it, I usually speaking will run it maybe minus the XM4. I'll go something like maybe the mill stop, but for this gun, I really just happen to like rocking the Microflex. It is a really good one, so if I was you guys, go ahead and run this. For my suppressor, I'm rocking the agency suppressor for that muzzle flash concealment and that vertical recoil control. It's going to be a really good suppressor, like I've already explained this with the other guns. For my barrel, I'm actually rocking the 19.7 Ranger for that plus 100% bullet velocity, which is a really good attachment. Unfortunately, there's no real sort of like final barrel unlock, which would inherently be the best. It's basically kind of up to your personal preference, and for me, I really like the 19.7 Ranger changer for that bullet velocity. It makes my bullets hit faster, which I do genuinely really like. For the body, of course, I'm rocking the Tiger Team Spotlight for that plus 40% reveal distance, so I think that's actually incredibly beneficial, like I've been talking about here so far in the video. For my underbarrel, I'm actually rocking the Field Agent Grip for that plus 6% vertical recoil control and that plus 20% horizontal, so that's going to be a fantastic attachment to make this gun an absolute laser beam. So if I was you guys, definitely go ahead and run this. For my magazine, of course, we have the option here to run the Salvo 50 round fast mag, much like we do with the AK-47. So we're going to, of course, be running this. It does give me that con of that negative 25% ADS time, which is completely okay. We will definitely nullify that out, or basically, you know, cancel that out. For my handle, I'm actually going to be rocking the Airborne Elastic Wrap. Like I said, this is the best wrap you can possibly get within the handle category. So when you do happen to have the chance to unlock this, when you do happen to unlock it, go ahead and equip it. This will definitely be the best one for you. And then last but definitely not least, I'm rocking the Raider stock. This is my preferred attachment here for that plus 30% spring to fire time, plus 40% aim locking movement speed. This basically just makes my Krig a really solid beast to be able to use. And this is definitely my go-to setup for the Krig 6. I mean, I really like this gun. Definitely like the most consistent AR probably out there besides the AK-47. So that's why it's in like my top 2. Last but definitely not least, let's actually jump in here to the AK-74U. Definitely another top tier SMG in this game. So let's actually jump into this. So I don't happen to have a optic on here. I don't really like having an optic on the AK-74U. I do really like the iron sights. So for the muzzle, I'm of course rocking the groove suppressor, the last suppressor you happen to get for that muzzle flash concealment, that vertical recoil control, which I do think is actually really solid. So I really like rocking the groove suppressor. If you really don't want to rock that, you could definitely rock something like the KGB Eliminator, which I do think is like the other really solid option to be able to use, which does help out with your vertical recoil control, because this gun does tend to have a bit of weird recoil to it. It's not like the MP5, so it's just a tad bit different, has a little bit more. So you definitely do have to work on controlling it a bit more. It's not as much of a laser beam, but we can definitely make it a little bit more of a laser beam. So let's actually jump in here to the barrel. Normally speaking, I would really be rocking the Task Force barrel, but honestly guys, I don't really know what it is. I just really have not been liking rocking the Task Force barrel or the last barrel on the AK or this gun. I've actually really been liking rocking the VDV Reinforce, and this just actually makes my gun have so much less recoil. So the reason I'm actually using this is just so I can hit more shots. And if I was you guys and you're just having a little bit of trouble, you know, even controlling the recoil, because this does give you that negative 20% in your vertical and negative 15% in your horizontal, I would go ahead and run the VDV Reinforce. This is going to be amazing, and it's going to make a world of difference as it has for me. Of course, I'm rocking the Tiger Team Spotlight for that plus 40% reveal distance. Like I said, this really does help out, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. For my underbarrel, of course, I'm rocking the Spetsnaz Grip, which is that 6% vertical, 20% horizontal. It's kind of more or less self-explanatory. I don't really want to get too much into it, because it is indeed basically, you know, the best attachment to be able to use for the underbarrel on this gun, because it does have a decent bit of recoil, so you do have to be able to control it. On the magazine, I'm rocking the VDV 50 round fast mag. Of course, there's all those pros in there, and that gives you that negative 25% ADS time, which is completely okay, because we want 50 rounds in our magazine. This is an SMG. We are of course going to be rocking around, you know, just running around, balls to the wall, getting in people's faces, and we need that extra ammo in our magazine. And for the handle, the Groove Elastic Wrap, like I said earlier, this is the best one to be able to use. That plus 30% ADS, 9% flinch resistance, and of course we can drop shot, so we can aim while going prone. And of course there is those negatives down there, but that's completely okay. For our stock here, we're going to be rocking the KGB Skeletal stock for that sprint to fire time and that plus 10% aim locking movement speed. And this does, of course, give me that con of that negative 30% hip fire accuracy. It's okay though. Of course, like I said, up at very close range, we do, generally speaking, whip out our Diamatis, our Gallo 12. So that is indeed it. That's all I got for you guys here within today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe if you are brand new, check out these other videos here up on screen, as I greatly appreciate it. With that being said, I'll see you guys back here again tomorrow with a brand new video. Just start out triple cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.